Mother and daughter disappeared in the Amazon. 9 weeks later, this shocks the world. It started like any other family adventure. A mother and her young daughter setting off on what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, their destination, the heart of the Amazon rainforest. A place filled with breathtaking beauty, ancient secrets, an untouched wilderness. But just days after they arrived, they vanished without a trace. No calls, no texts, no signs. And as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, their story became one of the most chilling mysteries the world had ever seen. This wasn't just about two people going missing. It was about a bond between a mother and her child, a journey meant to bring them closer together, and a turn of events that would leave an entire nation in shock. Their names were Emily and Sophia. Emily, a passionate wildlife researcher and environmental journalist, known for her curiosity and courage. Sophia, her 8-year-old daughter, full of life, laughter, and questions about everything. Together, they had always shared a love for nature. The Amazon, with all its untamed wonder, was supposed to be their escape. A short research trip for Emily, and an unforgettable summer for little Sophia. Before they left, Emily had reassured her family and friends that she was taking all necessary precautions. She had planned meticulously, arranged local guides, and packed equipment that could withstand the rainforest's harshest conditions. But just 3 days after they were last seen, the first signs of something being wrong started to emerge. The team that was supposed to check in with them received no response. GPS trackers stopped working, and when local rangers went to the location where Emily and Sophia were last known to be, all they found was an empty campsite, backpacks scattered, food untouched, but no signs of a struggle, and no sign of Emily or Sophia. What happened in those dense green walls of the Amazon? How could a mother and her daughter simply disappear in an area Emily knew so well? The search operation that followed was massive. Volunteers, local tribes, military personnel, even trained dogs and drones were brought in. But days passed with no leads. The rainforest, vast and unforgiving, offered no answers, only more questions. As the search hit the 3rd week, hope began to fade. Rumors began to swirl. Some claimed they had wandered too far and fallen victim to the dangers of the jungle, wild animals, venomous snakes, or hidden rivers. Others suggested foul play, hinting at the dangers posed by illegal logging camps and mining operations deep in the forest. Still, no clues, no evidence, no tracks. It was as if the forest had swallowed them whole. The media caught on quickly. Mother and daughter vanish in Amazon. The headlines screamed. Social media lit up with theories, some hopeful, many heartbreaking. Emily's sister, Lisa, appeared on TV pleading for help, holding up Sophia's drawing of a parrot, a picture she had made just days before the trip. "They're out there," she said. "I know my sister. She wouldn't give up. She would do anything to protect Sophia." And she was right. What no one knew, what even the most experienced trackers and search teams couldn't have guessed, was that Emily and Sophia's disappearance wasn't an accident. Something had happened deep in the forest that no GPS, no drone, and no rescue dog could detect. Something ancient, something that hadn't been seen for decades. And somehow, this mother and daughter had stumbled right into the middle of it. By the 6th week, most had accepted the worst. The official search was scaled back. News channels slowly moved on. The forest, as always, kept its secrets. But just when the world was beginning to forget, a single message brought everything crashing back. A note, found by a local fisherman on a floating piece of bark, tied with vines and covered in mud, barely legible. but unmistakably written in English. "We're alive. Please don't stop looking." The handwriting matched Emily's, and the discovery reignited everything. Rescue missions returned with renewed energy. Helicopters flew over, miles of untouched canopy. Satellite teams scanned images day and night. How was this possible? How could they still be alive after nearly 2 months in one of the most dangerous environments on Earth? And more importantly, where were they now? As the 9th week rolled in, search teams were closing in on a part of the jungle locals refused to enter. They whispered about the place, said it was cursed, that those who went there never came back. Superstition? Maybe. But fear runs deep in places where maps end. And then, the world stood still. A voice crackled over the radio. A team had found something. Not remains, not just belongings, but something. Completely unexpected. What they saw stunned everyone. And when images started surfacing, the story took a turn no one could have predicted. Suddenly, experts, scientists, and even government officials began arriving. Something had changed in that forest, and the mystery surrounding Emily and Sophia wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about discovery. What did they see in those 9 weeks? What kept them alive when no one else could have? Why did they say they weren't alone? The world thought they had the answers, but the truth was only just beginning to unfold. And what happens next will shake you to the core. The rescue team that made contact first couldn't believe what they were seeing. They had followed faint footprints along a muddy trail, far from any known path, deeper than anyone thought the mother and daughter could have traveled. The jungle had grown thicker there. Vines hung like curtains, and sunlight barely touched the forest floor. But then, through the dense underbrush, they found a clearing that shouldn't have existed. At its center stood a small circular structure made of wood, leaves, and stones, too carefully built to be natural. And beside it, a figure emerged, thin, sunburnt, and barefoot. It was Emily. She looked like she had aged 10 years. Clothes were torn, her hair was matted, and her face was hollow from exhaustion. But her eyes were sharp, focused, and filled with something deeper than relief. A strange calm. The rescuers rushed toward her, asking questions, offering water, trying to make sense of it all. But all she said was, "She's inside. Sophia's alive." Sophia was weak, but conscious, wrapped in layers of leaves. She blinked slowly as light hit her face. She smiled faintly at the sound of her name, but she said almost nothing. The girl who once filled journals with doodles and questions hadn't spoken in days. Doctors would later say it was exhaustion and shock, but Emily would quietly tell her sister, "It's more than that. She saw things." After being airlifted out, Emily and Sophia were taken straight to a hospital in Manaus. Medical staff worked quickly, checking vitals and running tests, and while news outlets exploded with headlines, mother and daughter found after 9 weeks in Amazon jungle. Only a few people knew what Emily had told the rescue team, that they had not been alone, that someone or something had helped them survive. When Emily was finally strong enough to speak, her story unraveled, slowly. It wasn't just about being lost. The storm had hit hard on their 3rd night, destroying their shelter and washing away their gear. With no GPS and little food, she had tried to backtrack, but every direction looked the same. She made a decision to move forward, hoping to find a river or village. What she found instead was something she couldn't explain. Signs of an old path, bones tied with colorful string, and markings on trees that weren't made by any animal. She spoke of a tribe, not one found on any map, a hidden people who lived far beyond the reaches of modern exploration. They had been watching. At first, Emily didn't believe it, but after days of wandering in circles, too weak to continue, she collapsed near a thick grove of trees. That's when she said they appeared. Not with weapons, but with quiet eyes and calm gestures. They gave her water, wrapped Sophia in furs, fed them boiled roots and strange fruits. They never spoke a word of English, yet somehow Emily understood them. Through their signs, their faces, their silence. For weeks, Emily and Sophia stayed hidden in this lost world. The tribe never took them to their main settlement. They were kept in a sort of outer circle, protected, fed, and watched. At night, Emily would lie awake, listening to the strange sounds of drums far in the distance. Sophia would sleep next to her, clutching a carved wooden figure given to her by one of the tribe's children. Emily had tried to ask where they were or how to get back, but every time she hinted at leaving, the tribe grew distant. It was as if they were being kept there, not as prisoners, but as guests who were never meant to leave. One night something changed. The drums stopped. The air felt different. Emily said she woke up to find the tribal members gone. No warning, no goodbye, just silence. That morning, she decided to try walking again, carrying Sophia on her back. She followed what looked like a carved path, and 3 days later, the rescue team found them. Most people didn't believe this part of the story. Officials claimed she was hallucinating, her memory distorted by stress, but the way she told it, calm, clear, without drama, left many wondering. Her story inspired debate across the world. Experts discussed the possibility of unknown tribes. Anthropologists argued about lost cultures. And conspiracy theorists lit up forums with claims of government cover-ups. Meanwhile, something even stranger surfaced. A researcher from a Brazilian university reviewed satellite images from the period when Emily and Sophia were missing. On one image, taken during a flyover on the 4th week, a faint but unmistakable geometric pattern was visible deep in the forest. Circles and lines carved into the trees in a way that didn't match natural growth. The area matched the coordinates where Emily claimed they had stayed, but when teams were sent to investigate, nothing was there. The land was silent again. No clearing, no structures. As if it had vanished. Back in the hospital, Sophia began to speak again, but only in fragments. She would whisper about the shadow people with painted faces, about songs sung without words, and about a glowing light that floated through the trees at night. Her drawings became darker, images of a great tree with eyes, of animals standing in circles, of her mother with leaves growing from her arms. Psychologists said it was just a child processing trauma. But Emily wasn't so sure. She had one more thing to say, something she hadn't told the news, the doctors, or even her own sister, a detail that stayed with her. On the morning before they left the tribe, Sophia had disappeared for almost an hour. When Emily found her, she was sitting in a ring of stones, smiling, her hand pressed to the dirt, and carved into the ground, in symbols Emily couldn't read, were the words, "You were chosen. You must return." Now, as Emily and Sophia try to rebuild their lives, the world watches and waits. What did they really find in that forest? Who were those people? And why were they let go? But the biggest question of all, the one that keeps Emily awake at night, is this. Why does Sophia now talk in her sleep in a language no one taught her? And what will happen when the jungle calls them back? For months after their return, Emily and Sophia tried to go back to normal life, but nothing felt the same. Emily would catch Sophia staring at trees for long stretches, quietly humming that Same strange melody she claimed to have heard in the jungle. At night, the girl often spoke in her sleep. Not words Emily understood, but something rhythmic, almost musical. Doctors said it was a side effect of stress and isolation. But deep down, Emily felt that something had changed in her daughter. Something the forest had left behind. One morning, while Sophia was drawing in the backyard, Emily noticed a familiar pattern taking shape on the paper. It was the same circular symbol she had seen carved into the forest ground, the one surrounding Sophia the day they left. When asked about it, Sophia just shrugged and said, "They want me to remember." Emily tried to stay calm, but inside, her heart raced. Every logical part of her said it was imagination, but the part of her that had survived those 9 weeks, that had seen the impossible, knew this was something else. Meanwhile, scientists and researchers continued to analyze the small wooden figure Sophia had carried from the forest. At first glance, it looked handmade, carved from an ordinary tree branch. But tests revealed that the wood had properties not matching any known Amazonian tree. Its age, impossible to tell. The carving marks, not made by any modern tool. A quiet buzz started in the academic community. Whispers of a lost civilization, one that existed outside of documented history. But there was no proof, just Emily's story, Sophia's drawings, and the strange, unexplainable data from the jungle. Then, something unexpected happened. A man named Dr. Alvarez, an anthropologist who had studied uncontacted Amazonian tribes for decades, reached out to Emily. He told her he had once heard of a place matching her description, a hidden society known in local legends as Aqueles que escutam, the ones who listen. According to ancient stories, they weren't just people who lived in the jungle. They were guardians of it, observers, protectors, rarely seen, never followed, and if they helped you, it meant they saw something in you the world needed. This idea haunted Emily. Was that what happened? Had she and Sophia been chosen for something? Or just lucky to survive, still searching for answers? She and Dr. Alvarez returned to the Amazon with a small team, retracing her steps. But the path was gone. The trees had closed in. The terrain had shifted, and even the riverbeds had changed. It was as if the forest itself had erased the trail. They found nothing. No clearing, no symbols, no signs of life. Until the last day, as Emily stood alone near the edge of a ridge, she noticed a single piece of bark tied to a vine, just like the message the fisherman had found. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, in neat English, were just 4 words. She must not forget. Emily didn't show it to the team. She didn't say a word. She tucked the message into her journal and returned home, this time with a strange sense of peace. The jungle wasn't giving them more answers. It had given all it intended to, but it had left something else behind. A warning maybe, or a responsibility. Back home, Sophia slowly began to change. She started speaking more, laughing again, even drawing familiar things like animals and trees. The strange language faded from her sleep. The wooden figure stayed on her shelf, untouched but never forgotten. Emily focused on telling their story. Not the mysterious part, not the part about symbols and secret tribes, but the part about survival, resilience, and the deep bond between a mother and her daughter. The world listened. Her interviews reached millions. Her book topped charts. But still, there were moments, quiet ones, when Emily would look out at the trees behind their house and feel the jungle's presence. Not threatening, just watching, listening. As for Sophia, she grew stronger, wiser, and more curious than ever. But every now and then, on warm nights when the wind rustled the leaves just right, she would stop whatever she was doing, tilt her head, and smile, as if hearing something no one else could. And maybe she was, because the Amazon never truly let them go. It simply let them live. And now, through their story, the mystery, the disappearance, and the unexplainable truth, it had spoken to the world in its own way. Not everything in this world is meant to be solved. Some things are meant to be respected, and some stories, like the jungle itself, are meant to live on forever.